Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to our webinar on unlocking Sri Lanka's potential through AI agents. I'm Rakbo Perera, and I'm delighted to be your moderator for this exciting session. This session is proudly hosted by OCTAVE, the advanced analytics arm of George's Holdings. At OCTAVE, we specialize in data engineering, advanced analytics, and business intelligence solutions, helping organizations unlock value for their data. This webinar is part of our ongoing effort to drive conversations around AI and analytics. Over the past few years, we've hosted discussions on a variety of key trending topics, all with the aim of equipping businesses with the knowledge that they need to embrace a data-driven future. So today's topic is on AI agents, which is another step in that journey. And as we explore how this technology can shape the future of Sri Lanka. Now, in this session, we'll be exploring three key areas. First is on understanding what AI agents are. Second, why AI agents are important for businesses and economies. And thirdly, how organizations can successfully implement them. After the discussions, we'll be opening the floor for Q&A, so please do engage and feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Now we have an incredible lineup of panelists today, each bringing deep expertise in AI, business transformation, and technology adoption here at OCTAVE. They'll help us unpack these critical topics and provide valuable perspectives on the future of AI in Sri Lanka. And now to kick things off, we need to first understand what AI agents are and how they work. Our first speaker for today is Manisha, who will break this down for us. Welcome, Manisha. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah,
How
hi
about you
Rakbo.
first give an introduction to who you are, and then you can get into your segment in terms of telling us what AI agents are.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's pleasure to be here. I'm Manisha Lenage. I'm working as a data scientist here in OCTAVE with a background in ML system design, real-time data processing, and intelligent automation. So my focus has always been on bridging technical innovation with real-world impact, building systems that don't just analyze data, but also make decisions, adapt, and create value at scale. So let's start with the question. How many AI agents did you interact with today? So maybe you ask Siri for directions or let Google Map reroute you. Maybe Netflix served up the perfect show after dinner. So whether we realize it or not, AI agents are now deeply embedded in our lives. So recommending, responding, optimizing, and increasingly even deciding. So, but what exactly is an AI agent? Rather than dive into technical jargon right away, let's think about something familiar. Let's say an AI agent is like a digital human. It has sense to perceive, brain to think, memory to retain context, the ability to act, and even the capacity to learn and improve over time. So, here, just like we break down human intelligence into key abilities, I would say, like seeing, thinking, remembering, and learning. So, we can do the same for AI agents. Let me walk you through the core capabilities of modern AI agents, the foundational components that make them uh, intelligent, adaptive, and impactful. So, as a data scientist, this is how I think about them, not just as a black box system, but as modular, I would say, evolving framework built on a real technical building blocks. Let's break it down. So the first one is perception. It's more like our senses, like just like human use eyes and ears to perceive the world. AI agents start with perception, gathering and interpreting data from their environments. A chatbot processes your words in text. where the bot pulls structured data from an API. Likewise, perception is how an agent begin to understand the world around it, just like we do through our senses. So the second one is thinking and planning. Um, it's similar to our brain solving problems after perception. So when we get new information, we don't just react, we think. AI agents do the same. They analyze data and decide on the best course of action. In technical aspects, this is the agent's prefrontal cortex. It evaluates and maps out next steps. So, and like we know that for intelligent action, memory is crucial. So, short-term memory helps the agent keep track of conversations, overflow. Long-term memory stores knowledge, past decisions, or structured data. And in multi-agent system, memory is shared, like a team learning together. So, without memory, every interaction is starting from scratch, which makes learning impossible. So memory is crucial. So then the fourth one, this is where agents show real intelligence. This is decision making, and some use let's say as an example, it's like predefined logics, like if then rules. Some use machine learning to identify patterns, and more advanced ones apply reinforcement learning by doing, just like as example, like toddlers learning to walk, that is same thing. So agents evaluate, compare, and decide just like us. And the other thing is action, like taking the next step. So thinking alone isn't enough. AI agents also need to act, right? So this might mean calling an API, triggering an automated workflow, or even physically interact with the world, like robot assembling parts. So this is kind of, I would say, muscle of agent, like where ideas become actions. So the other thing is agent can't and don't operate in isolation. The communication will be there. So they need to communicate with humans, with softwares, and with other agents. Like as example, chatbot generate natural language responses, and agents in a multi-agent system exchange like structured messages, coordinate tasks, and improve together. This is the agent's social intelligence, like collaborating to solve complex problems. So, and finally, the most powerful capability, learning. Like AI agents improve with experience. Like supervised learning help them from label data, and unsupervised find hidden patterns. Reinforcement learning enables them to adapt based on feedbacks. Like humans, learning transforms them from static tools into evolving systems. So and the other thing is, like, depending on how advanced they are, AI agents fall into four categories. Those are reactive agents, deliberative agents, learning agents, and autonomous agents. Like the reactive agents, in the sense, like they are responding instantly, they don't learn. And deliberative means plan and simulate actions. And learning agents are adapt from their experience, and autonomous agents operate independently with minimum human inputs. So you can think of it like educational levels, from reflex driven toddler to independent adult making complex decision. So that is same thing. So when we ask what is an AI agent, we are not just talking about a chatbot or a piece of code running in the background. We are talking about digital entity, like one that can sense, think, remember, act, communicate, and learn. So depending on its level of intelligence, it might simply react, or it might plan ahead, adapt, and make decisions entirely on its own. So, and that's the power of AI agents. They are no longer passive tools. They are like active participant in how we live, work, and interact with technology. Yeah.
Thank you, Monisha, for that insightful explanation. I think it's clear from what you mentioned that AI agents are more than just advanced algorithms. In summary, they're capable of perceiving, deciding, and even learning how to improve over time. So, Manish, now that we have a solid understanding of what AI agents are and how they work, why not take a step back and explore how we got here?
Yeah. So, like, this is the thing, AI agents didn't suddenly appear out of thin air. Like humans, they evolved slowly and intelligently through decades of innovation. So, what started as a simple question from Alan Turing, can a machine think, has today become a reality where agents can learn, reason, plan, and even collaborate. Let's take a journey through time from the early dreams of artificial intelligence to autonomous system we are seeing today. So, in 1950s to 1970s, this is the birth of AI. So Alan Turing proposed the idea that if a machine could carry a conversation seamlessly from an human, so we consider it intelligent. This gave birth to symbolic AI, like logic-based systems. These early systems were built with rigid if-then rules. So everything had to be explicitly programmed. Likewise, think of it like a teaching a baby using flashcards. The baby responds if pattern matches but can't actually understand or grow. So a perfect example, the other example is early chess programs. They couldn't follow strategies, but like they they can follow strategies, but they never learn from a loss. That's how it is. And then next big breakthrough coming in the 90s, 80s with the rise of expert systems. These were AI programs designed to simulate human expertise in specific domains. Here's where the magic started, the machine learning image, allowing system to learn from data instead of just rules. The shift was monumental. It was like moving from a student memorizing a textbook to one who learned by observing patterns. Like business began to take notes, AI started begin used in banks, hospitals, and factories, helping humans, but still needs tons of hand holding at that time. So in the 2000s, three major focuses came together, and I would say this is where the AI started hitting the gym and bulking up likewise. So uh, first one is big data. Like thanks to the internet, social media, and digital everything, we suddenly had an ocean of data. So GPU, the second thing is GPU, that is like originally built for gaming, but they were perfect for training AI models. And the third one is deep learning, inspired by our brains, neural networks. These systems could now see, hear, and speak with remarkable accuracy, I would say. So this era gave us AlphaGo, Siri, Alexa, Google Assistants, self-driving prototypes. So AI wasn't just learning, it was thriving, growing stronger every day. And now we're come to today, the era of AI agents. We have moved from passive models that need guidance to autonomous agents that can take initiative, learn on the fly, and collaborate with humans and other agents. So, as example, LLM like GPT-4, Gemini are redefining natural language understanding. And tools like AutoGPT, Baby AGI can take complex goals, break them through plan, and execute tasks with minimal inputs. And even in robotics, AI agents are managing hospital logistics likewise. This is no longer science fiction. I would say it's industrial reality. So from rule-based logic in the 50s to decision-making agents in the 2020s, the evolution of AI has mirrored our on growth from infants to students to professionals likewise. And just like us, these agents are now learning how to think, adapt, and work together. That's how we got here, and this I would say this is just the beginning. Yeah.
That was a fascinating journey through the evolution of AI agents, particularly from the early days of simple rule-based systems, as you mentioned, to today's advanced AI agents powered by massive data and cutting-edge models is actually very inspiring. And it's clear that we're at an exciting turning point where AI agents are becoming more and more capable and integrated into our daily lives. So now that, Manisha, we understand how we got here, let's kind of shift our focus to the present. So, Manisha, could you just tell us about the current state of AI agents and where they stand today in contrast to this historical perspective that you just gave us?
Yeah, so uh, in that section, I want to walk you through four key capabilities that defines the current state of AI agents, not just from the conceptual standpoint, but through real world examples. But Maza will be walk you through more on that, where they are already transforming industries. So from generating content to making business decisions, from running on the cloud to operating at the edge. This is what AI agents are doing right now. Before that, so I need to mention that why are AI agents so powerful now? What made this AI leap possible? There are mainly three breakthroughs. I mentioned this thing earlier as well. The massive computing power, big, fast data, and smarter models. Like, in short, AI agents today aren't just tools, they are becoming like digital co-workers, co-pilots, and collaborators. So one of the biggest game changer here is generative AI. As example, models like GPT-4, Gemini don't just answer questions. They generate content, write code, solve problems, and communicate with context likewise. These models are now multimodal. They can understand text, images, audios, and videos all at once. Like, imagine this, like an AI agent watches a training video and summarizes the content, translate it into multiple languages, and then create a blog post all in real time. So this is happening today. So businesses are already using these models to automate content creation, service, product descriptions, even legal documentation. But more than just talking, these agents are now acting. So the other thing is we are now crossed the line from reactive agent to autonomous AI. Tools like AutoGPT, Baby AI can break down complex tasks into smaller goals, plan them out, and execute with little to no human involvement. Just so think about that. Just a few years ago, AI helped me write an email, and we were very impressive. Now it's making life-saving decision in operating rooms. So this is the new frontier. So, and the other thing is AI agents are just speeding up tasks. They're making high stakes decisions. Like, AI agents can be used for business decision making directly. So AI is no longer just about automating repetitive tasks. It is now being used to optimize critical business decisions in industries like, I would say, finance, healthcare, and supply chain management. These agents are no longer supporting businesses. They are like shaping the future of them. So the other thing is here, I would say here's another leap forward, real-time AI at the edge. So instead of waiting for cloud responses, AI agents are running on devices inside smartphones, smartwatches, IoT sensors, and cars. This means instant decision making without delays or internet dependencies. So AI agents are not just reshaping how we interact with technology. They are shaping how we live, work, and build the future. Yeah.
Thank you for that comprehensive overview. I think it's incredible to see how far AI agents have come from covering business decisions to transforming industries like you mentioned of healthcare and logistics, and then many more even, right? So Manisha, thank you very much for your segment. I'm sure the audience will be sending questions on the chat, and actually we have received some questions as well with respect to your segment, which we shall take during the Q&A. But thank you so much for that. Please stay with us. And next week, move on to Muzzle. So now that we know what AI agents are, let's explore why they're essential, and how they can create impact. And with that, Master, I would like you to take us into this section by first addressing a few examples to us in terms of some success stories of AI agents. But before that, Master, why not just introduce yourselves and let us know who you are, and then we can get into the segment once again.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Rakbo. Happy to be here today, sharing the screens with Charaka and Manisha on this panel, and being with Rakbo as well. To introduce myself, I put myself as a problem solver. I don't put a tag behind who I am, like what my professions are. I do solve problems out there, which I see as well. But I think AI is at a place where it can solve problems regardless of which industry. And that is one of the things I enjoy about AI. You could be working today at retail, tomorrow at insurance, and thereafter, and banking. So it's really a nice place to be in. Like, and also with the technologies evolving, we are seeing new problems and we are solving new problems every single day. Yeah, happy to be part of Octave and then solving problems here. Yeah, that's just myself. So going ahead with the success stories which Rakbo just put forward of these AI agents, right? Okay, we are talking about AI agents. Yeah, we are talking. Managed to give a lot of introduction about AI agents, how it evolved, what are the main components there, and also, like, what are they capable of, right? But are we looking at enough success stories in the industry? Are we looking at enough impact which these AI agents are bringing, right? I think there's a quite a lot of success stories we are reading every single day, and like many companies are like kind of utilizing these AI agents, and they are understanding that human there is a lot of tasks which we have been using humans are now can be automated, and we don't need quite a good amount of employees as we had before. That's why we see kind of humongous number of job losses in US as well. So going ahead with one of the like four of main success stories, I would say, which I have seen as a good impact, and which is also like being accessed or like by companies in Sri Lanka. One of the main aspects is optimizing internal operations inside enterprises. So enterprises like Octave or enterprises like others, we have a lot of internal operations which can be optimized through agents, right? This could be tasks which are routine, and which can be optimized through a workflow where it kind of goes on to reducing cost and boosting productivity across different departments in the enterprises, right? To give you some examples, like if you take companies like Siemens, IBM, they use platforms like UiPath and Blue Prism to kind of build stream agents in using these platforms to help them streamline processes, and this has resulted a lot of reduction in cost, and like and also save a lot of money for them, and also not just that, but faster the operational responses, right? So that is also one of the key areas. So apart from like operational optimizing operational internal operations, we can also see that at an individual level, at a develop level, it is impacting how we develop software today, right? Today the term of vibe coding, and like yesterday, if you or today morning, you see that new terms coming up like vibe marketing with GPT-4 or having new image generation capabilities. So this industry is kind of evolving at a place where it impacts how we deal with certain tasks on an individual level, right? If you have worked with some of the tools like Cursor, right? Cursor is an AI coding assistant, offers real-time code completions, right? And also it has the context of what you are working on, and it also helps you on a daily level in terms of fixing bugs and debugging them easily, because we as developers spend a lot of time understanding where the problem is and like trying to debug, right? These tools kind of enable us to code faster and focus more on innovation rather than fixing small bugs, right? So this also not just being on Cursor, but like in enterprises like Microsoft, IBM have developed their own AI tools such as the GitHub Copilot, which can like easily boost developer productivity and reduce debugging times. So apart from this, there's also a lot of success stories we have seen in the space of customer service and support, where AI systems are in the space of directly talking to the customers and automating certain responses and personalizing the interactions they have with each customer. So this cut down the responsive time a person would take to respond to a human intervention, and then also provide more informative answers, right? Even though it is an AI behind the scenes, but people like it because there is so much of information it provides when you ask for about a detail, rather than a human might feel at some point it's kind of, he might, like, the efficiency of human answering questions might go down with time, but the AI itself will keep it informative for every single time you're talking to it, right? So this has been developed in many companies like Salesforce and IBM. For example, Salesforce and IBM use technologies like Zendesk, Answer Bot, and also like IBM uses ServiceNow. So they are like improved versions of context resolutions, and they improve the high customer satisfactions. So they have shown that there's improvement in customer satisfaction scores, and they've been adopting this a lot in customer service and support. Apart from these three, I also see this being developed a lot around the industry in even Sri Lanka as well, where we develop AI agents for human resource and talent management, right? So AI, like, this has been an era where, like, kind of, okay, we are talking more of, like, try to hire the best candidates out there. So AI tools like simplify HR tasks, like, screening, candidate ranking, onboarding them, like allowing HR teams to concentrate on strategic initiatives to kind of find the best talent out there, and also to retain the talent within the company by through employee engagement. So they can spend more time on that rather than, like, screening CVs, which they kind of hate, right? So this, and for this, like, companies are mostly developing their internal tools, and also they are also like using external, like, tools company developed by Chiplet or Unilever. They use platforms like Avocado is basically, and then also we have Highview, so which helps them to kind of reduce the hiring time about over 50%, and this, like, improves not just their life but also life of the candidate, because they are getting faster screening processes and faster responses in terms of how they deal with the employees, and how they deal with this changing job market as well. So I would say in a nutshell, these are the four areas I see a huge impact, mainly with streamlining workflows within enterprise, and then secondly, with AI assisted software development, and then customer service and support, and also human resource and talent management. I believe, like, this helps you kind of bring back some of these services,
yes.
and go think of your
Yeah.
think of your company and see where you can apply these kind of solutions, and see how you can adhere AI agents going forward.
Fantastic. I mean, those are some amazing real-world examples showcase the power of AI agents, whether, as you mentioned, it's streamlining business operations, enhancing software development, transforming customer support, or even revolutionizing human resource services. So it's clear that AI agents are making a tangible impact across industries, driving efficiencies and innovation. But Mazhar, with all this potential, the big question is, where do AI agents fit in for businesses? Are they relevant for every industry, or are there just specific areas where they can create the most value? What are your thoughts on that?
So in terms of what sort of nature of the business, if you put that way, who is relevant and who is not relevant, right? I would I will give you a three boxes, right? If you take any of these, you can today, like, if you take all of these today, you can, like, go and try to look into AI agents and try to optimize or bring certain use cases into your business. So one is the nature of the task and the processes, right? So industries involving in repetitive tasks, where it is also data incentive, and there's a routine for it, right? We are prime candidates for AI integration. So these are the areas we can integrate AI. For example, manufacturing sectors benefit from AI in predictive maintenance, supply chain optimizations, enhanced operational efficiencies. So look at the nature of the task of the business. see what sort of take task and process we do, and is it actually repetitive, data driven, there's a routine on it, right? So this task, nature of the task, is one thing we have to focus. And secondly is the data availability and utilization, right? So industries that generate large volumes of data can leverage AI for data analysis, decision supporting, or even like this, as Manisha mentioned, right? Data is the perception of the AI agents, right? So if you don't have data, that's where don't see the world. So if you don't see the world, how do you are going to interact with the world, right? So sectors like finance, e-commerce utilize AI for kind of fraud detection, risk assessment, personalized customer experience, as I said, the service chatbots, so like any customer support systems. So these driven by the transactional data the business has, right? Um, and then also like customer interaction and personalization. So what sort of customer interaction the business has with their customer? Is it like high levels of customer engagement where AI is more like a in a service industry, like where it services, and then retailers for instance like use AI chatbots and recommendation systems to provide personalized shopping experiences and improving customer satisfaction and sales. So these key areas like where nature of the task and processes, data availability and utilization, and type of customer interaction and personalization. So conversely, so we can apart from this, whom it's not relevant is the is the companies who do like who deal with human judgment, emotional intelligence, complex problem solving, or deal with sensitive ethical data. So those companies can use AI agents, but with some careful oversight by like human in loop systems as well.
Yes, thank you, Masin, for that. That was very insightful indeed, and I think it's it's clear that AI agents can drive the significant value in industries, as you mentioned, with high data volumes and with repetitive tasks and customer engagement. But as we've heard, there are also areas where human judgment remains irreplaceable. So now let's bring the conversation closer to home. That's Sri Lanka, right? So what are the opportunities for AI agents in the local market, and how ready is Sri Lanka to adapt to them? So, Mazen, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I think as a developing country, we have a big role to play, right? The economy is booming, and we are starting with some new, thought processes, and even the government itself is thinking in a way that how we can boost our like um, tech system ecosystem and everything, right? So it's kind of a the place to think about how we can utilize AI agents in a company like in a country like Sri Lanka, which we are developing out of recession. So integrating AI agents in a country like us offers us a really good opportunity, even amidst in a situation where we have a capital and compute limitations. By strategically like adapting the tech ecosystem by developing nations can harness AI agents potential for a sustainable development. So I would say like we can target mainly three areas which I would focus, which would be like developing multilingual and context-aware AI models. So multilinguality and context aware is basically we build models which are much understanding, which also adheres to the cultural understandings of Sri Lanka, right? So which maybe the local languages we use, the dialects we have, the accents we have, and also the cultural context we have with us, right? So for example, if you take India, they have this Bharat Gen project focuses on developing AI models that account for the country's linguistic and cultural diversity, aiming to reduce like reliance on AI models which are out of the country, right? So which is helping them to build solutions within the country which adhere to multiple linguistic and cultural diversity within the country. And also this, even though if we want to build this kind of systems, we need the local expertise, right? Who are the people who can come in and build these models, right? So this has to come from an investment point of view in terms of education and training to develop a workforce skilled in AI and machine learning is crucial, right? Establish partnerships with international organizations, educational institutes, and academia is very much important to facilitate this knowledge transfer and capacity building. not just to build the AI system, but also to interact with AI is a crucial area where even though there's systems out there, people should have the education to understand how to go and interact with AI systems and get done to the best, right? Like how to utilize the system to the best, right? And also we have to come, third one would be to kind of foster the private public partnerships. So like governments has to come forward and like, non-profit organizations come forward and drive initiatives in AI to kind of meet the local needs by collaboration with public and private, like the private sector itself. If you take example, Stargate project in the US, right? A $500 million project, initiative led by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. So which kind of enhances the US intelligence infrastructure by constructing a vast data center. So this, even though initial development is only, first phase is only $100 billion, this kind of initiatives will actually foster AI innovation, right? So if we take in a summary, like developing multilingual and context-aware models, and then also building their local AI expertise, and also fostering public and private partnerships. So these three are the main areas I would say we can focus, and to bring more, become Sri Lanka more readiness to this advancing technology. Thereby we can develop not just our socio-economic frameworks, but also bring a more sustainable development through this journey. Yeah.
Thank you, Mazin. I mean, it's incredibly exciting to see how AI agents could be adapted to Sri Lanka's unique needs through what you mentioned by ways of these multilingual models, local talent development, and strategic partnerships. So while the potential is immense, so are the challenges. So Mazin, thank you for your segment in terms of addressing the why of AI agents. And now we get into Charaka, which is the perfect segue into his segment in terms of how do we go about with AI agents. So we see some questions have been coming in on the group chat as well. And I believe much of those questions, which are in terms of the ethical considerations and in terms of how to implement, will be addressed over here. And if there's anything in particular which we haven't addressed, please do raise them as well. Right. So, Charika, so now that we explored what AI agents are and why they matter, the big question is how can organizations successfully implement them? And Charika will now guide us through this crucial part in his segment of addressing three main questions. So, Charika, welcome to our series. And to start off with, let's address what the foundation infrastructure and capabilities that are required for companies to successfully deploy AI agents. So, before that, Charika, please introduce yourself before getting into it.
Thanks a lot, Rakbo. So, hi everyone, I'm Charaka. I'm currently working as a consulting machine learning engineer at OCTAVE, where I've been working on building quite a lot of Gen AI projects and actually taking them to production and deploying them. So, a lot of these projects span across multiple industries. So, I've got quite a good grasp in terms of how AI is built, like Gen AI projects are built and deployed in the context of Sri Lanka, for example. So getting right into it, I think Rakbo, your question, it's a great question. What are the infrastructure needs in terms of businesses in the context of Sri Lanka to deploy AI agents? And I think Maza, Manisha, you've touched on it as well. I'm just going to re-emphasize something Maza said specifically, and he mentioned quite a few times, is this word context, and the importance of context in terms of AI. So I think that's something we have to highlight quite significantly. Um, when it comes to AI agents, or when it comes to AI in general, machine learning, whatever you want to call it, I think the center and backbone of all of it is data. So as businesses, we need to have a lot of data, and yeah, and in terms of the context of Sri Lanka, this context, the business data should be diverse, high quality, and we need to have lots of it available to train our models. Um, in doing this, we have the potential of understanding our day-to-day operations of our business and having access to a lot of consumer insights and consumer behaviors. So the next step is not just storing this data, but making sure that the data stored is secure and easily accessible and oftentimes this is done through either like a cloud infrastructure or on-prem data center to handle like the large volume of information being processed. So after you have the data in check, the next thing you need is compute. As you might have heard and seen, a lot of these businesses like OpenAI, even DeepSeek and Claude, for example, Anthropic, a lot of them work with a lot of computing power. So AI agents rely quite heavily on these complex algorithms and machine learning models, as Manisha touched on and Maza kind of expanded on. So businesses need to have access to GPUs and even AI optimized chips, especially if they want to get into things like hosting their own models, model fine tuning, and kind of diving deeper into this AI agent sort of development. But what makes this all easier is instead of buying these GPUs, buying these AI optimized chips, which is going to be very expensive, the best way to go about it is to work on the cloud, right? So Azure, AWS, GCP, these are just some examples, but it allows you to scale up much more frequent, like quickly, and that's what most Sri Lankan businesses need. We don't have access to a lot of hardware, so being able to kind of get hardware on demand is basically a scalable solution for most businesses operating in Sri Lanka. And finally, I think the one of the key components after having your data compute, one final component I believe that without this you can't kind of achieve the next phase is talent and leadership. So this might seem not as sort of essential, but in the grand scheme of things, it's extremely important. So companies need the right mix of AI specialists, data scientists, and even domain experts, something very much overlooked, right? Someone having a deep understanding of the domain and how to sort of apply um, AI agents in the context of a particular business. Um, and to tie this all together, the leadership itself needs to be very on board, sort of culture that environment of innovation, allowing teams to sort of fail fast, experiment, learn, and adapt quite quickly. So to sum it all up, I think with these three pillars, data, infrastructure, and talent, like deploying these AI agents is much more easier. Without it, it becomes quite fragmented and not as effective, and definitely not sustainable in the long run. I hope that answered the
Thank you,
question.
Shanika. That was a very strong message. So essentially, for AI agents to thrive in Sri Lanka, what you're saying is that businesses need to focus on three things: on their data, the computing power, and skilled talent. And you're saying that without this development can result in being fragmented and unsustainable. So now, as we discuss the foundation elements needed to deploy AI agents successfully, it's equally important to consider the ethical implications, right? So, responsible AI adoption goes beyond just technology. It involves addressing key ethical considerations to ensure fairness and transparency. So, here, Charka, could you share with us what ethical considerations businesses need to address as they adopt AI agents?
Thanks, Rakbo. So that's a great question. I think there's a few questions on the chat as well,
Exactly, yes. The
regarding
majority
this.
of
So
it, yeah.
yeah, it's perfect question. I think when it comes to Sri Lanka, the market and AI in general is just starting to grow, right? It's something that's I mean, in the context of the whole world, it's true, but in Sri Lanka specifically, it's just seeing that businesses adopting these AI agents and I would say even things like machine learning, it's just coming into light, and most businesses have started adopting that. So this topic and this conversation is extremely important. And first, to start it off, I think the most important thing is data privacy, which is critical. Businesses have to ensure that the customer data is collected and stored responsibly. And I think it's Sri Lanka. We've had our Personal Data Protection Act as well. So ensuring this is quite significant, both in terms of compliance and also in terms of just like customers being confident in you as a business. That's a very important factor. So One quick thing is that AI systems have to anonymize the sensitive data where possible and be transparent about how the data is being used. So that's extremely important when it comes to data privacy. And especially if your data is being used to sort of train models, and if this data is being shared with third parties, we have to be very open with that. The next thing is sort of bias and fairness. This topic of bias and fairness is very important because it talks about the underlying data that's used to train the models, right? So the AI models are only as good as the data they are trained on. So if these data sets that they're trained on are unbalanced and sort of have like historical inequalities in them, the AI can sort of just perpetuate that and make it more significant and amplified, right? That could manifest in like various ways that is quite unexpected. For example, things like financial approvals at banks or even like customer service interactions, which you only see it's sort of like a waterfall. It only happens at the very end, and you might not see it coming. So it's very important for companies to sort of audit their data sets and be very aware of where these biases could be, and sort of correct these biases, right? And a big part of that is like retraining your models regularly. Um, for example, a very quick thing I can give you is maybe you have data available at during a COVID period, and maybe that might, when you look at it in the grander scheme of things, that data might not work out in the current period. That's just an example. Yeah, this is just that humans need to sort of review the data and make sure that the data, the underlying data, is not biased or fair. And leading up to my next point is it's going to be on accountability. When we're allowing these AI models to take certain decisions, we need to be sort of able to ask the question, who's responsible if the AI gets it wrong, right? For example, if the AI prescribes some sort of medical treatment, or even if you reject a loan application, who's to say who's wrong actually in that particular instance if the AI agent gets it wrong? So businesses have to kind of be very clear about who's accountable for um, um, these decisions by AI agents, and especially when there's some sort of critical risk, both in terms of legal or even in terms of some sort of in human nature, like for example, if it's a medicine that's being prescribed, those kinds of situations, I believe that they need a bit more human oversight, and given those situations are more high stake. And finally, quite connected to both of those points of bias and fairness and even accountability, transparency is very important too. So when you think about these AI agents making decisions, we often think of black boxes and sort of think, okay, these AI agents know the best. They're making decisions based on what might be right. That might be is very sort of a dangerous area to sort of trust. Like as I said previously, these models can have like biases. So it's very important for us to understand how they are making these decisions. And that also builds the trust of people, and like customers also aren't too sort of afraid of using these or working with these AI agents because of that. So I think by embracing a lot of these AI practices, since Sri Lanka is just starting off in our journey in terms of AI, it's incredibly important, because if you get it wrong, that sort of trust and sort of confidence that everyone has in AI is sort of reduced. So to ensure long-term success in general, I believe we need to sort of comply with these ethical practices as Sri Lankan companies.
Yeah, thank you, Charka, for those valuable insights. And as you heard, ethical considerations are crucial in ensuring the responsible adoption of AI, and particularly in a growing tech ecosystem like Sri Lanka, where there's still a lot more that is yet to be matured in terms of our adoption process of ethical considerations. So now, having mentioned, now I think the most important thing is having established very much in terms of the fundamentals of how AI agents are going to be implemented and addressing the ethical side of it as well. I think it's going to be interesting, Sharika, if you can shed some perspective in terms of the future of AI agents, because this AI field is always evolving. We are always talking about something new. So, what is AI agents, or what are AI agents going to be springboarding onto next? What is in that you see in your crystal ball of future predictions of where this trajectory is going to land us in?
That's a great question, Rakbo. So I think Mazhar was talking about the present of AI and the currently where we are at, but I'll just touch on the future. So I think the AI agent landscape is kind of evolving extremely fast. As Mazhar just mentioned, I think a few minutes ago, like he talked about how OpenAI released a new image model. And that's going viral across the internet. So that's very interesting, and that's kind of a testament to how quickly the AI landscape is changing, and how things are sort of what you're talking about yesterday is also out of date. Right now, I think most of the AI agents are focused on narrow AI. So these are AI agents that are specialized in performing a very specific task, like answering customer queries, or even managing schedules, or sort of even these customer service interactions, right? Um, but I believe the next big leap forward, Manisha touched on this as well, is leaping towards AGI, right? So, what is AGI? Artificial General Intelligence. And this is AI that can think, learn, and reason across different tasks, very much like a human would, right? So, while it's still in the horizon, I think the advancements in this in general in terms of LLMs and multimodal AI. So multimodal, just a bit of sidetrack, is when AI can process text, images, and even things like sound. So, for example, if you work with Midjourney, that's one that works with text to image. So that's those different types of modes. It's an example of multimodal AI. As these LLMs and multimodal AI sort of develop, we're pushing closer to a more adaptable and versatile AI agents in general. So that AGI would be definitely a big leap forward, but at the moment we're seeing incremental steps towards extremely versatile AI agents. So I think in the near future, like AI agents won't just respond to our instructions, they sort of anticipate our needs, especially in the context of business. So like imagine like you have an AI business advisor, for example, that analyzes market trends, your company's performance, or even like things like economic forecasts. And this AI agent would sort of suggest new product ideas, even come up with things like cost savings, and completely this would be autonomous without even being asked to do so. So that would be where we're kind of heading. Um, that's an example of what we're sort of seeing in terms of this gradual progression to these things called autonomous AI agents. And these are kind of systems that collaborate with other AI systems in a wider sense, and even other business ecosystems. So you might have like things like SAP or other ERP systems, and these tools sort of collaborate with and interface with these other wider ecosystems of our businesses. And like another quick example I can touch on is something like a supply chain AI agent that would sort of independently negotiate with our suppliers, optimize routes, and sort of dynamically change itself according to like global disruptions, like as you might have seen with what happened with the Red Sea, and so on and so on, right? Um, but again, I think touching back on the previous question you asked me, the future of AI is very much linked to ethics and controls, right? This will be a very much a focal point when it comes to the discussion, the wider discussion. So the more capable the AI agents become, the more critical it is to ensure that these AI agents are transparent and aligned with, like, I think, human values in general. So this transition needs to come with some sort of human insight, and of course the right legal protection to sort of ensure that the data isn't being used incorrectly, the ethics are being followed. So there's a quite a growing debate in terms of whether AGI will be a partner, or in terms of boosting our productivity and solving some of the most difficult challenges we have, or somewhat of a disruptive force if it's left like unchecked, right? Yeah, just something I forgot to actually mention is I wanted to touch on this thing called embodied AI. I think you've seen it quite a lot, where agents in general are paired with things like robotics, and that's kind of how both the AI agents are able to kind of physically act and react in the real world. And Yeah, that's transforming how we're seeing things like manufacturing, logistics, and so on. I think the first thing that people comes to people's heads when we're talking about this sort of thing is like the Matrix or like Terminator or like so on, right? But yeah, that's a very interesting take as well, like where you'd think of the future of AI as AI versus humans. But honestly, my take is that um, we won't see that humans are being replaced by AI, but it's more about humans being empowered by AI. And I think that's a very different perspective. And I think it's definitely a perspective that a lot of people have been adapting gradually. And the more companies that embrace this perspective, I believe, the more they're able to sort of um, lead the way in terms of a transformation, right? So in the context of Sri Lanka, bringing it back to us, I think for us to leapfrog, this is definitely a chance to sort of revolutionize our traditional industries and position ourselves as more of like a AI hub. Definitely, like some of our leading industries like tourism, agriculture, and things like finance can very much benefit from
Yes.
these developments and adopting them. Yeah. So honestly, like summing it all up, I think that the AI agents of tomorrow won't change how we work, but definitely it'll change our perspective on work altogether. So that's I'll just leave it at that and give it over to you,
Yeah,
Rakbo.
thank you, Chandra. Thank you so much because you painted a very exciting sci-fi future. Because when we say sci-fi future, or when we heard about sci-fi back in the movies, we saw it as a big jump in terms of what it was at the current state of time back then versus what these sci-fi movies were trying to project. But now, given the current status quo, much of what those sci-fi movies have prophesized have actually materialized in our world, right? So with the emergence of artificial intelligence and now with AI agents, it's very fascinating that we are accelerating towards what we were dreaming of like 20, 30 years ago. We are just almost there. And then what's even more exciting from what you mentioned was about this whole integrated AI agent space, which is where you differentiate between the standalone AI, such as with respect to the narrow AI and the AGI aspects, with the whole integrated space of AI agents, which is with the autonomous AI agents and the embodied AI, which is AI agents within AI agents talking and communicating to each other. And then, like you reference the whole matrix as well. And that's exactly what it is, right? Like it's just computers within computers, and then the infinite possibilities of things which you can do with that extent of mathematical simulations is just numerous, and then our brains simply cannot comprehend at this current state of intelligence that we have in terms of the infinite possibilities that life can unfold to us. So a very exciting future indeed. So thank you very much, Charika. We see a lot of engagement on the chat where we have a lot of questions being asked by the audience. Thank you so much for engaging with us through the chat panel. I don't think you can unmute and speak, but the only way is of just sending them across. So I've just picked a few while the speakers were just talking on the sections, a few which I can direct to some of our panelists. So I think one of the first questions, which we can take from Manisha, I think, because it's directly addressed to you. So it is down the lines of asking us, well, AI agents have now evolved beyond just reacting to a position of making real-time business decisions. What level of statistical overall precision is expected as LLMs will be in use? Are there any risk of LLM hallucinations affecting the mentioned business decision making? So they're requesting for some explanation, and if so, what action are taken and what possible, and then what is possible in this context. So it's essentially in terms of getting an understanding of how do we maneuver or navigate the topic of precise, actionable results from the modeling of these AI agents? That's the question, Manisha. Any
Yeah.
perspectives of that?
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing this up. So as AI agents become capable of making real-time business decisions, especially when powered by LLM, precision and reliability become critical too. So, uh, so as in the question as well, there will be two concerns, two parts, I would say. Uh, One is statistical precision in business decision making, and the other thing is how to mitigate the hallucination in practice. So statistical precision that comes like it is always dependent on the domain, I would say. So in a data driven business context, like forecasting demand, dynamic dynamic pricing and supply chain optimizations, we expect very high statistical precision, typically measured using, we are typically, these metrics are using day-to-day MAE, RMSE, or like classification accuracy. Depending on the use case, this will be differ. So the precision expected varies by industry always. So as example, in finance, even a 1% error can lead to major monetary losses, I would say. So models are tested and monitored with real-time metrics. So that's how it is. So in healthcare, let's say, in false positive or negatives must be minimized. So we prioritize high recall and AUC, ROC always. That's how we are doing those things. So about LLM hallucination, this is absolutely a real concern. Like LLM like GPT-4 are powerful, but they generate language based on patterns, sometimes not truth, which means they can sometimes hallucinate facts. In business decision making, this could lead to incorrect. We are aware on that. So in order to mitigate that hallucination in practice, what the industry practices are, always we are using RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Like instead of letting the LLM guess, we ground it in verified knowledge like database, business reports, business related reports, or APIs. The model generates outputs only based on this trusted context. That is one thing. And the other thing is always humans will be in the loop, like for high impact decisions like finance, forecast, or medical advice. Always for, let's say as an example, for medical experts are there. So we introduce a validation layer, either a human approval or another model cross check. That's how it is. And there are some other things as well, like confidence scoring, multi-agent checks. Those things are in real world now. And even there are like robust frameworks to mitigate hallucination, like RAIF, as I remember. So that is also a robust framework that we can use in order to implement a robust evaluation framework. So in order to mitigate the hallucination. So that's how. I hope this answered the question.
Thank you, Manisha. I think it did. Unless there's a follow-up question on this aspect, because I think it really depends, as you rightly mentioned, in terms of the aid of application of these tools, especially in the medical and the finance sector, where every bit of accuracy is so crucial in terms of how consequential it would be if that accuracy wasn't there, especially in the healthcare sector, right? So we have some other questions as well, which I'd like to, I think this one I feel Mother will be quite excited to take on, which is a question that has been sent on to us, where it reads, when it comes to the AI systems, how about the complexity and the maintenance? What's your perspective of that, Marcel, with respect to the complexity and maintenance? I think it's greatly going to be dependent in terms of the scale of the problem that the AI agent is going to solve, but is there any perspective which you can structure out for us on this?
Sure. Sure. So even when it comes to AI systems, as Manisha also mentioned, we can build robust evaluation frameworks to understand what level of, are they actually doing the task they are supposed to, right? I think people, I saw that in the chat, people have been mentioning certain like, end to eight kind of, no code tools, basically, which we can use to build AI agents and other stuff like flow. So basically, how you build is also a way of looking at, right? What sort of frameworks you use to build AI agents will bring you enough customization, enough level of understanding how each of these systems work, right? So for example, like multi-agent systems built using LangGraph, which is one of the core technologies kind of I see, like kind of has that layer where we can go in depth and understand how these agents work together, right? It gives you the like perception to see how they communicate to each other, how the memories are being shared. You can build more robust systems within them to make it more like easy to maintain and also monitor, and also for you to kind of see how what say if you see a problem today, which sort of the multi-agent system framework which has this issue, right? So how the frameworks and the way you build these systems has to be in a way that you bring this down the complexity, even though the system looks like a black box from a user perspective, but a perspective on how you develop has to be broken down into systems where you can identify problems and mitigate those problems very easily. And also you bring in robust monitoring systems to always monitor and see how these individual systems work, right? AI systems are not just a black box. They have multiple components involved, as even Manisha, like in the introductory part of the conversation mentioned, right? So we can monitor these individual systems, but also it depends on how we build it, right? If you go ahead and build it with a no code tool, you don't have much of customization to bring in those kind of breakdown into complexities and look at the AI system in a more granularity, right? So for you to be able to have a system which is less complex, easy to maintain, understand, and like solve problems in future and customize based on your need, that is when you have to build in frameworks, and sometimes you might have to change these frameworks to make sure it is adhering to your company's practices, right? So these are the areas you have to focus to make sure these systems are more less complex and more maintainable.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for that. I think that really addressed the core of the problem itself. And given that we have a lot of questions with respect to data privacy and ethical practices, I would like to take this next question up with Charlotte, given that he already addressed this. This is one question, Charlotte, that reads, how can tech companies build and train AI models while ensuring that data privacy and ethical concerns are addressed?
Yeah, so I think, Rakbo, that's a good question. It kind of touches on what I was explaining before as well. Um, yeah, so in terms of the ethical considerations that need to be in place and data privacy, it comes down to actually the core data itself being sourced ethically in some sense. And as I mentioned before, it's like when you have your underlying data sets, you need to make sure that the data that that was gathered, um, you have gotten the sort of required approvals from the users that you've gathered it from, and certain biases that might be in place, that you foresee, for example, certain risk factors in your data that you look at, you understand, and before you train any models using this data, you sort of audit. Uh, and those steps are quite important to kind of validate whether the final model would be compliant, right? Yeah, that's I think in short that I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did. Thank you so much, Shanga, for that. And I think now we have a very broad question, which is going to be relevant for any of the panelists to answer. And feel free to chip in because this, I'm sure, is going to be on top of the minds of everyone who's in the audience. And the question is, what are the resources to learn Gen AI, RAGs, and agents? what are some of the starting areas or resources that might be helpful to learn about Gen AI, RAGs, and agents? Mazhar, Manisha, Charka, any perspectives?
I can touch on that as well, Rakbo. So I'm sure Maza and Manisha, you can add. But I think when it comes to learning about Gen AI, there's so many resources available. It might be a question of where to start. And oftentimes it's definitely like resources that are like freely available online, sort of understanding that Gen AI as at its core right now isn't more of an AI engineering problem where you're sort of trying to, especially if you're learning this out, it's more of understanding how to prompt these things. So basic things like learning prompt engineering, software development, for example, applying good software practices to your project. So those core principles are very important. So having that base, I would recommend you start looking into trying different things. So, for example, working with OpenAI's API. Maybe it also might be through Azure, through an Azure platform. So it would be using a cloud provider. There's a lot of resources on YouTube and through certain frameworks, even like LangGraph, LangChain, and you can put something up combining LangGraph and Streamlit very quickly. And another thing that you could probably explore is using Gen AI to learn about Gen AI, where you sort of learn about it through ChatGPT and kind of prompt it the right way and sort of get an understanding of what's available, right? I think Maza, Manisha, you can add on
Yeah.
if you have any
So
suggestions.
adding on to just Charaka what he talked, I think they should probably go and watch the last webinar we did. I think we went in much details into how can someone get started and what are the like steps in terms of building AI agents, like how can they kind of start with Gen AI, what is the first first step, and how can they go from starting build a normal chatbot to building multi-agentic systems. We kind of went ahead with in much depth in that area. So we probably have to go ahead and go to the YouTube channel of Octave and then start looking into some of the resources we already have. But in general, which Charaka mentioned, is trying to kind of understand from one core level how these LLMs operate and what is an LLM and how they operate, and start working on building systems. You put your hands on and then start working on trying not to look at the flashy things, trying to build multi-agent system, but rather you start from a scratch point of view, how to just simply build a chatbot which can answer your questions, right? So you start from there and try to understand on a narrow perspective what these LLMs are capable of, what they are doing, and then you stack upon that in terms of function calling, tool calling, agent building agents, and and also like multi-agent systems. So it can stack upon that, but you start from where you start from is kind of understanding how these LLMs work on a core perspective.
Thank you, Charaka and Mazhar. Any perspective from Manisha, or then have the speakers covered what you wanted to address?
Yeah, they covered all of the aspects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think we have addressed broadly the main key topics that were being addressed. There's actually one more. There's one individual who is very excited about. Okay. Yeah, there's one question. I think there are some questions which are directed to our HR team, which is particularly in terms of how to get into Octave. So I'll let our HR team to directly reach out to them and get the communication going. That's the last question on the chat. I think, I think in the interest of time as well, let us conclude on the questions and then as always, I think as Mother said, there's a wealth of information even in the previous webinar that we've done, and we hope that we have broadly covered much of the questions in terms of what you've had, particularly in terms of the applications, the tools, and the technologies which are associated in the space of AI agents. So as we conclude today's session, we've witnessed how AI agents are evolving at a remarkable pace, from large language models to the potential of artificial general intelligence. AGIs. So the landscape is transforming industries across the board, right? So we've seen AI's impact on everything from automation in operations to enhanced customer interactions. And for Sri Lanka, the opportunities are immense. So, but to truly succeed, businesses need to prioritize the right data infrastructure, computing power, and talent. That's what's important, and that was one of the key emphasis of today's discussion. So the future of AI agents is brilliant, without a doubt. And with advancements in the autonomous systems and the ability to anticipate needs, but it's vital that we continue to approach this rapidly changing landscape with care and with responsibility, as well Sharik mentioned in his final remarks about the ethical considerations. So, in conclusion, I would like to say a big thank you to our insightful speakers, Manisha, Mazhar, and Sharika, and to all of you for being part of this important discussion that we had today. Important yet exciting as well. So let's continue to explore how we can embrace AI agents and drive innovation responsibly. So please stay tuned to our future webinars because there's always relevance in a build up from the previous webinar to the next. It's a continuous series, and please feel free to reach out to any of us or to the company as well through LinkedIn and through our social media platforms. Do follow us, do reach out to us, and keep in touch, and we'll be more than happy to engage with you. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.